Hey Fred, the post department is all out of chewable laxatives.
Copy you.
Before we start, I want to introduce you. I want to introduce everybody to David's story.
All right.
And you're like my almost famous interview, trying to get you to do this. Like, oh, I got Russell Hammond. So you started off as everything from a rugby player on through.
Yeah.
How did you originally get into entertainment from all of that?
Well, if you go way back, my dad was a salesman, and he mostly sold literally pots and pans. He was a middleman. He was a manufacturer's representative. Companies would hire him to sell their stuff to other companies, and he did a lot of pots and pans. But he also did like incentives for companies that, like insurance companies, like if you're the top salesman, you get a prize. And one of the things he sold was movie cameras. So he would sell these to these incentive companies. So if you sold a lot of insurance policies, you got a sound Super 8 movie camera back in the 70s. So he always had these samples. And he said, hey, do you want a sound Super 8 movie camera? So my friends and I and my brother, we made all kinds of stupid Super 8 movies. And I thought, that's so much fun. And then got to college and like, oh, I can minor in this? I couldn't major in it, but I could minor in it. And yeah, I'll do that. And then I applied to USC film school and got in for the screenwriting program. Went to there for that screenwriting program. Didn't know anybody in LA really. And then optioned a couple screenplays after getting out, but never made any money. And then I found work. I didn't do it. I barely did any fields for the first 15 years of my career.
Was it all writing?
Well, it was writing, but it was more like there was a lot of pop culture documentaries and what we call clip shows, which is a kind of a pejorative, not a pejorative, but it's a diminishing term because it makes it sound like you just put clips together, but you're going to follow like I did Behind the Music. So I'd follow the Doobie Brothers, and I would like go film a lot of B-roll with them, like having a snowball fight on their bus in Columbus, Ohio. We talked about Columbus, or doing a concert in Columbus, doing a concert in Minnesota, and then doing interviews with all the members, and then looking back at like all these old clips of them performing in the 70s and you're putting together archival clips, new interviews that you've done, B-roll that you've done, and you're putting it all together to tell a story. And so I did that for a long time. That was my main kind of meat and potatoes. And then
And that was Behind the Music?
Other pop culture documentaries.
Okay.
Like a lot of like, but we call them clip shows,
Yep.
Like, so I did one about award shows. I did one about censorship in television. I did one on the history of cleavage, of all things, which was rerun all the time.
What's it called? What was that one called?
The history of cleavage. Yeah, it was for the A&E, and the History Channel ran it all the time until our rights and clearances ran out, and then they didn't do it. But it was like the most rerun document. Like people would call me all the time saying, "Hey, cleavage is like." So I did a bunch of those, but those started kind of going away, and reality shows were getting big. And then I guess the first real big reality show I did in the field was Ice Road Truckers, and then.
Oh wow!
That's a trial by fire. That's a tough one to do. I don't think it's as tough as Deadliest Catch, where you're on a boat the whole time. At least for me, I'm from Kansas. A boat would be tough, but you're in those trucks and smelling diesel for 18 hours a day. You're fucking freezing cold. It's part of my language, and you're that's a
brutal show.
That's a test. Yeah, that's a test.
How on a show like Ice Road Truckers, how much does safety come into play in obtaining the content? Or does it?
The funny thing about my side of the business, which is basically unscripted reality, and some of it macho adventure unscripted reality, is TV. The networks and the viewers, we always want big excitement moments when people are scared. But if you got scared driving the ice roads, you're not driving the ice roads. So there's sometimes, my driver was a Canadian, and he was such a good driver. He never made any missteps at all, and he just lived to drive a truck. So it was you almost rooted for a little unsafety. You're like, couldn't we just slide a little bit? Like there's a big snowy bank over there. Couldn't we slide into that and give me an act or give me a beat? So sometimes that's and as you know, sometimes in unscripted reality, you are waiting for things to happen, and sometimes it's a lot of work to get things to happen.
Oh yeah.
And that show was that.
There are many descriptions about what a producer does.
Sure.
What does it mean to you to be a producer?
Well, it's, I mean, some people think it's just putting the money together, of course, but in Hollywood, there's, a few people that do that, and everybody else does the hard work. It's just making sure things work. The other kind of secret about reality TV is that producing is the catch-all, grab-all title for people, so they don't have to pay writers' residuals, and they don't have to pay directors' guild. Because the whole reason reality TV exists is because it's cheaper than scripted.
Yeah.
Scripted is expensive for one reason, because you have to pay writers every time it airs, you have to pay directors every time it airs, you have to pay actors every time it airs.
Yeah.
And on reality shows, they're not considered actors. I've written massive amounts of copy and narration and all that, and never gotten credit as a writer. I've directed things,
Yep.
top to bottom, and never gotten credit as a director. So
Yeah.
I'm probably going to get me killed now. There's probably snipers near the building, like, oh, he let people know what unscripted reality is really like. But yeah. Well, and back to your producer question, it's tying everything together. It's making sure things happen. And there are line producers who, you were my line producer one time, who control the money and the logistics and the travel and all that stuff. And then there's the executive producers or the co-executive producers or even the field or story producers are doing more of the creative, like what's the story, what's beginning, middle, and end here. And so on my side, in that realm, being a producer means working with the cast, working with your crew, and bringing home a story every day. And on some shows, look, it's more or less soft scripted. It's you kind of know what you're going to get, and that's pretty easy. On some of the shows that I've done, you're out there for a long time, and you panic because like, am I getting something for the editors right now? And if you don't think you are, then you get scared. But it is telling stories. It's getting the cast, crew, location, everything to come together, logistics, like, hey, this story will work if our cameraman can be on a boat out there, but it's not going to work if the cameraman's on the shore. So you're thinking about all that stuff and pulling all that together so you can tell the best story in the best way possible.
So you're like the conductor?
Conductor's not a bad term.
Yeah. Considering that reality television is relatively a new genre,
Yeah.
what are some of your influences in that?
Weirdly enough, it's when I told you I went to film school and went to screenwriting school, I really think the influences are more from that, for me anyway. Because those influences are telling a story. And those influences are when you're in the edit room, what do you have? And I had a drama teacher that defined drama as somebody wanting something badly and having a hard time getting it. And that really is the crux of every reality show out there. And it should be the crux of almost every story out there. But so, like, if you're on a cupcake show, I want something really badly, I'm having a hard time getting it, is my cupcake's not rising, how can I get my cupcake to rise? On this show that I do, Naked and Afraid, it's, I want to live till tomorrow. I'm having a hard time doing that, but it's something I want badly. So in terms of stakes, I like our show a little bit better
than the cupcake.
I hope they like my cupcake, but I hope they like my cupcake. Does have built-in drama and built-in. I mean, I've worked on a dog show, Cesar Millan dog show, and that one is the people are having a hard time getting their dog to behave, and so they want it badly, because their dog is either peeing or tearing up their house or fighting or threatening their baby, and they want something badly, and so they are seeking ways to solve their problems, and that's when they bring in Cesar Millan, and he helps them. And that's I was a field producer on that. And what we did is figure out, how are we telling this story? How are we telling them, what are they doing to make their dog better? And then you look at the beginning, middle, and end of that, and you have a story.
Nice.
Yeah.
Did you like that show with the dogs?
I
love
did.
dogs?
I did. I like dogs.
You're a dog guy, because
Yeah,
I remember Mr. Teddy Bubbles.
R.I.P.
I know. Sorry.
He passed away. We had, you kind of like, it's kind of, there's a lot of weird dog owners. So. We sometimes, no, I shouldn't say that. We sometimes call them dogs and their pets. some people are really insane about dogs. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to
Oh yeah.
burst anybody's bubble, but like, I'm diabetic and can't walk upstairs. Let me get 2 pit bulls. And you're trying to figure out how Caesar can help them, and like, he has a hard time doing that. But that's the beauty of reality TV. You learn about certain situations and certain expertise and certain jobs and research stuff that you would never learn anywhere else. I mean, like I can now. I mean, I shut my mouth about it, but I see people with their dog and I go, oh no. But I learned that from working. I mean, I know how truck drivers drive on ice because of ice road truckers. So yeah.
What is the favorite thing of all of your travels, or even what is the favorite thing that you have learned through this?
That's a good one. I would say honestly, from Naked and Afraid, how to butcher a pelican with a sharp piece of obsidian. I mean, that's pretty damn cool to see. Not something that you normally see.
No,
yeah.
but at least you now know how to do it.
Yeah. And if I mean, it's weird that a naked woman is teaching you how to do it, but it's true. Yeah, that was pretty cool. I mean, I think there's there's also the stories you learn. I mean, I've worked on some kind of silly UFO and ghost shows, and some of those stories are a lot of fun to learn those stories, and you learn history about surrounding certain UFO events or certain paranormal events, and those are fun too.
I heard you once describe a show that you worked on called The Deadliest Warrior as the show that your inner teenage self would have wanted to make.
Yes.
Explain that and explain the show.
Well, it's. I mean, if you're a teenage nerd and you're into heroes and weapons and a little bit of battle stuff, and I'm old enough, pretty much before video games. I mean, I played Pong and stuff, and Pac-Man, but not Call of Duty or anything. I think I might have told you the story, but it was. There's sometimes, there's all these ranches around Los Angeles. We would go film in all these ranches in Santa Clarita or Canyon Country or Simi Valley, and sometimes you'd go to lunch and they'd film everything at once. So you'd have 5 of Teddy Roosevelt's Rough Riders here, 5 Spartans here, 5 Iraqi guard guys over here, 5 guys from Genghis Khan over here, and you're eating lunch, and it felt like being in a studio back in the 50s or something. Like there were so many things going on, and everybody's still in costume.
Nice.
And that was fun.
No, we're gonna go off topic here a little bit. Go off thing. I want to know what the word tablature means to you.
Too soon.
How
do you remember all these stories?
You have another part of your career that has to do with a part of television where you weren't a crew member.
No.
Which is game shows.
Yes.
Tell us about those.
Well, I went to.
Well, I eat my donut.
Yeah. Well, I went to film school, and back in the day, and I was looking for money, and had a couple crappy jobs, but wanted money, and. Back in the day, you'd look in the LA Times and there'd be ads like, hey, come try for this game show. So, yes, tablature. Tablature actually didn't eliminate me.
Oh, okay.
Do you want to know this?
Yeah, I do. I want to hear. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, let's hear it. Yeah.
I was flying. It was the syndicated version. It wasn't with Regis Philbin. It was with Meredith Vieira.
Okay.
And the lower categories, the payments are lower. But then they get up, and I wouldn't think they'd be able to afford it, but the way their insurance works or whatever, they could give $1 million prize. But there's, if you remember Who Wants to Be a Millionaire at all, there's certain thresholds you get to. And if you get to that threshold, even after you lose after that, you only go down to that threshold to get that money. Mm. But if you don't get to a certain threshold, you go to the very bottom. Yep. And so I got $16,000. And the threshold was 25. So if I had lost on this question, I would have gotten like $3,000. And the question was, tablature is a form of teaching neophytes or something this, and it was knitting, draftsmanship, God, I can't remember the fourth one, and playing the guitar. There was some fourth one. And the name sounded, I'm not a musician, the name tablature sounded very familiar. And because my daughter had just learned to knit and play the guitar. It was annoying because I couldn't really figure out what one it was. And then tablature kind of sounds like tabula rasa, which I know means blank slate in Latin. So I thought, is that draftsmanship? And so I had all my lifelines because I was flying, and I used the first. The funny thing is, one of my lifelines was in Kansas, we're very nerdy because we don't have the things to do that a lot of people do. So I was the captain of the trivia team, and my co-captain, the other captain, was way more brilliant. He was a robot. He was amazing, but he was also an amazing band guy and musician, and he taught band up in Wisconsin. And because he was so good at trivia, I made him one of my lifelines. I hadn't talked to him in years, but I made him one of my lifelines. But my mom was really good at crossword puzzles, and I made her one of my lifelines. Then I made another friend that knows politics and all that, but is also a guitar player. So I had all these lifelines that if I'd chosen them, it would have been good. But my mom was great at crosswords, so I said, Mom, tablature is this. And she goes, oh, draftsmanship. It's definitely draftsmanship. And I thought, the one good thing about it, and I was in my 40s at the time, I thought, I know when my mom is fucking lying. and she would say things that, she's wrong. And I knew she was wrong, so I said, I don't think that's it. So then I did the 50-50 thing where they take two away. And by this point, I thought it was draftsmanship or playing guitar. And they took knitting away in the other one that I can't remember. So I'm like, oh, great. So then I did poll the audience. And so you think you're going to find like something that it's going to help you. So the phone didn't work. 50-50 didn't work. And now I have poll the audience. And it was literally 49.8 versus 50.2 knitting or art draftsmanship versus guitar. I'm like, oh crap. And then I just thought I could stop now and make the 16,000, but if you guess and you get it wrong, you're going down to 3,000. And I thought, I'm guessing guitar. And then they finally answered. They made an act out of it all, and I was right. I got it right. But and then the most annoying thing was, and it ties into our business. I just come home from Alaska for Maestro Truckers. Had been out of work for a long time. A lot of our audience can probably appreciate that. And really, really needed some money. My kids were young. And there was a show called Downfall, hosted by Chris Jericho, a wrestler. Okay. Primetime ABC game show. I go into, I'm waiting forever. We did the testing at the tryout at like the Chinese theater, Man's Chinese theater. And I slayed it in testing. You have a couple different ways to do it. You have to do the charisma. You have to do the test to see if you know trivia, and I know trivia. Yeah. And then you have to show you have some charisma. That's like making jokes and like because I had some casting directors say, "Yeah, you're good at trivia. You'd probably do well, but you're too stern." So I go, so you have to be effervescent. That's the word they use. I'm not natural. I'm from the middle.
You're very naturally effervescent. I feel.
I'm not. But when a game show is at stake, I am so bubbly and effervescent. So I slayed it during this interview, and they called me back, and they called this other. And you see a million people at these tryouts, and they called a couple of other people that I recognized from this tryout back. And we're in the elevator. We go out to Burbank to like finalize the casting and all this. But this is in 2010 now, so there's been some scandals with some Survivor contestants and some reality show people that had bad past. So they do a big background check.
Oh, yeah. I remember when that came in.
Yeah. And but that wasn't what got me. What got me was I get on this elevator in Burbank, and I go up the elevator, and this one guy that I talked to once on Extra Truckers, because on Extra Truckers we had like 8 crews, and you barely saw any of the other crews, like because they're driving this load on Tuesday. You're not driving up until Wednesday. You rarely see these crews unless there's like a whiteout and you're all stuck in this town dead horse together. Seriously, you don't see these other crews too often. So I see this guy, Sean, who I barely knew, and he goes, "Hey, Dave," and the casting people with me go, "Wait, you know him?" And I go, "Yeah, real briefly, vaguely, yeah." And they go, "Oh." And then you're out. I couldn't get on the show. They said they thought if I knew, because game shows, and a lot of people don't know this, from the quiz show scandals in the 50s and 60s, are so highly regulated.
Yep.
like if you go to the bathroom during a game show, you have a 25-year-old intern
Oh,
standing
yeah.
outside the door. I mean, you are under control in those game shows, way more than like a reality show.
Oh, yeah.
Their game shows are real, and they saw that I knew somebody, and so they said, "You're out."
Yep.
And then the person I saw who was tried out from me had a chance. This was a weird show too. If you got the question wrong, they threw you off a 6-story building on a hoist and all that. But like they call it, that was your downfall. Your downfall was that you get jettisoned off this building in a safety harness and you landed on a mattress. I mean, it was kind of a cool concept. Get a question wrong and boom, you're out. It's kind of a Monty Python type thing. And I'm looking at the questions and I'm going, I would have got that. I could have got that. Oh, so I would have won $1 million. So Sean, if you're listening from Ice Road Truckers,
Cost me $1 million.
and I've told him this because I ran. Then, of course, in Hollywood, I go into an office one day for a new job and I'm working next to him. So
What are some of the things about reality television, or what are some of the redeeming qualities about reality television that you think people should know about?
there are shows that the reality part is a little bit soft scripted, or it's. I mean, I've worked on The Surreal Life. I got fired from The Surreal Life. They give me a PBS veteran editor to edit The Surreal Life. So it was not a good mix. On my first show, everybody else had the normal editors. I was a new guy, and I got a PBS editor. But that was a show where you'd go home and you go, this. I mean, I felt bad. It felt really so phony and produced, but there's people that love that, and that's fine. But what I like about most of the shows I've done is that, and not to be too sappy about it, but there's transformation. There's results. There's like when this dog show that I worked on. Easy to discount how important that is, but like you see this dog being, that the dog doesn't know, but it's on the verge of being kicked out of the family, and then the dog learns how to behave, and the dog is all of a sudden part of the family again. That's kind of a tender moment. It's kind of fun to see. On the show that I worked on the most, Naked and Afraid, it's seen. I tell them, and for people that don't know the format, it's two people that I've never met before, stripping of everything to get down to the pure naked essentials about what it's like to be a human, meeting for the first time, and doing the hardest thing you've ever done with a perfect stranger. And I always tell them, I pity you on days 1 through 20, and I envy you on day 21, because they go through something, they transform, they have a new outlook on life. They've basically been through an information fast. They haven't looked at a cell phone or read a book or looked at TV or heard a radio in 21 days, much less a phone or an internet or computer or anything. And they've learned what they're capable of. And so they'll often have come out of it with a completely new outlook on life. They'll go home and ditch toxic jobs, leave abusive partners, and restart their life and really have a new outlook on life. And that's amazing to see. Like I say, same thing on the dog show. I worked on one show that was kind of a little dopey in some ways about outlier animals, like animals that are like elephants that were charging a Mozambique village, like going crazy and trampling a Mozambique village day after day for the corn, and the villagers were getting upset, and these elephants seemed out of control. And we went in there and filmed it, and turns out one of these marauding elephants had a snare. It wasn't a snare for an elephant. It was a poaching snare to get a game animal, like an impala. So it was a small snare, and they'd stepped in it, and it kept getting tighter, and this elephant was going to lose its leg, and it had a baby with it. And so while we're filming there, these wildlife biologists are with us, and our host is there, and they tranquilize the mother, they calm the baby, they remove the snare, and the elephant mom is relieved afterward, and the baby is, cuddling with the mom when the mom wakes up from being tranked. I mean, that's stuff you don't see.
Yeah.
And it was all real. And it's dangerous. It's like if that elephant wakes up too soon and there's people, screwing with its leg, it's not going to be a happy elephant. So those things are real that are amazing and transformative. There was another time we were in Africa and we saw it was a drought, so all the elephants had to drink in one place.
Okay.
And we saw them coming over this. There was a series of rolling hills. We saw them coming over the farthest hill. We thought they're going to come down right when our cast is gathering food there, and our cast has never seen a herd this big. This might provoke some emotions or something like that. But the cast was squabbling. They were arguing about who's doing what job, and is somebody slacking, is somebody sleeping in when they shouldn't be. And I'm like, the cast doesn't know these elephants are coming because they weren't out where we saw them coming over the first hill. And so I'm getting on the walkie with everybody and saying, "Copy you." I'm getting on the walkie with everybody saying, "We're gonna stay here until don't let anybody don't let cast wander away." Like and we don't do that too often. Usually we show up on the show and we're like, "What are you doing today?" and we follow you.
Yeah.
But on this one, I'm like, keep the cast here and let's see what happens when these elephants come down. They see it. And we're waiting, and like everybody's looking at me like, we're going to lose lunch, we're going to get meal penalty and all this. And like, just 10 more minutes. And then it was just one of the most amazing sights I've ever seen. A matriarchal herd of at least 30, 40 elephants came in with a ton of babies, like a ton of juvenile elephants. And the mothers come out first. They come through impossibly dense brush that you don't think any elephant could walk through, but elephants are amazing. I could give you 3 hours on elephants alone, but and the mom elephants go in and check it out, and then through some signal, all the babies come out at one time and start drinking. And while some of the matriarchal elephants are looking out for predators and stuff like that, the other ones are drinking or they're watching the babies. And this guy that had been kind of on the receiving end of a lot of accusations that he wasn't doing enough said, "See how the elephants all look out for one another? That's what we should do." And it was just like your heart, and it just happened. It wasn't prompted by a producer. It was, obviously waiting for the elephants was prompted, but none of that was scripted. None of that was what we thought we were going to film that day. But that's what we filmed that day, and it was mesmerizing and transformative, and everybody that was there remembers it, and you can't beat that.
No.
Yeah.
You were just talking about the way you said Naked and Afraid and it being real. Mm-hmm. And I will say that of all the shows I've worked on, that's probably close to one of the most real shows I've ever worked on. Yeah. You said it with a little bit of pride and a little bit of a smile there. And it just kind of got me thinking, what in your career are you most proud of? What are you most proud of that you've done?
There was an episode of Naked and Afraid that I'm still very proud of. It was in Africa. It was, I think because it was an episode where all the crew came together and did the right thing, that would be the episode I'd be most proud of. I really liked my Behind the Musics. I really liked some of my pop culture documentaries because they were really good. I did Behind the Music Sticks, which Rolling Stone said was one of the best.
Dennis DeYoung.
Yeah.
Are you kidding? I love Dennis.
And it's awesome. It's funny and it moves, and so I'm very proud of that show. But we had you can always get into the doldrums when you're doing something real, and in a 40-day show, there's going to be doldrum days, and you have to accept that. But our cast was kind of getting into the doldrums a little bit. It was day 28 out of 40. So most of the cast that's there, at that point there were 8 of them. Most of them knew, like, it's day 28, I've made it, 7/10 of the way. I'm probably gonna finish. But they're hungry and they're still sleeping in the dirt and they're dealing with ticks and all this stuff. But so one guy really felt like he was spinning his wheels. He wasn't getting along with the rest of the cast. He wasn't agreeing with them being a little bit lazy. And you get lazy. You're almost fainting sometimes. But so he wanted to go out on his own. And I'm again always trying to think, how is what's happening in front of me in the field going to translate for an editor and for an audience? And I thought, he wanted to go off on his own. Normally you wouldn't allow that. You don't have the facilities, you don't have the rangers, you don't have medics. But I thought, this is going to be better for the show if he goes off on his own. So I scouted this route that he could do on his own. And along the way, our ranger said, "Oh, wow, there's some woolly caperbush fruits. Those are really delicious. You can eat them." And we had to kind of climb under these thorny vines to get one. But it was almost too rich. It tasted like, and this is in Africa where there's very little fruit. It tasted like a raspberry smoothie. It was that it's silky in the mouthfeel and that sweet and fruity, and it was almost too much. It was weird. It was like a burst of fruit and sugar that you weren't used to. And this is for people that are eating. He kills a monitor lizard on the way down, and he finds the fruits kind of off the same vine we did, and he ate them, and they were amazing and delicious. And he was like, and you could see the sugar going through his body after having no sugar for almost 28 days. And we thought, okay, great. We got that scene. He got his sugar. He has this monitor lizard he's killed. He's going to set up a new camp in a new place. Let's keep going. Then he goes, oh, there's that fruit again. And he points to a tree that we'd never saw before. And he goes and he just goes a little berserk. He eats like 10 of these fruits and saves a lot more. But you can't blame him. You can't stop him. The guy's been starving for 3 weeks, 4 weeks. And so then I'm with him and a camera's with him, and we're a very small crew. And then we leave him for the day, and we put another person in charge of him to watch, to film him and stuff like that. And we get a report late at night that he is in debilitating pain, very sick, might need to be tapped out. So we send the medics in, and he does a great job of capturing all this on his own camera, diary cam. And we look at the footage, and it's agonizing. He's like at death's door. He says, I'm 9 out of 10 pain. And then he's hearing lions roar in the distance. He's in this new shelter. He's way too close to the river. There's lions. He's got this great shelter right up against a cliff, but he's in serious pain, and he hears lions. And we have to take him out, and we have to hospitalize him. But we think it's because he didn't cook the monitor lizard enough. Because again, I ate 3 of the fruits. I didn't have any problems with the fruits. The rangers were eating. We were all eating the fruit. He gets horribly sick. The next day, the rest of the cast makes a similar move. And they also come to the tree that he found. And again, we're not telling him not to eat them because we think he's sick as a monitor lizard. There's 7 of these people now. They all eat the fruit. One woman says she didn't like the taste of it, she put it down. The rest of them eat the fruit. And then that day, the 2 of the guys found evidence that Ryan had eaten the fruit and got sick. They were running back and telling people, hey, don't eat the fruit, because they don't know. They don't know whether it's the monitor lizard or the fruit still at this time. And then one by one, they all start getting horribly sick. And they all go to 2 of them go to the medic tent. I get the best shot I've ever gotten with an iPhone of 2 of these really sick people holding hands in the medic tent. But we think, oh my God, they're really sick. They might have to be hospitalized. We go away. They call us back at 8 at night, in the middle of the night in Africa. Sorry, more like 10 at night. And they say, this one girl, Phaedra's got to go to the hospital. We're loading her into the ambulance when we get a walkie call from the rest of there's 4 cast members left. Sorry, 5 cast members left down at the bottom, because this one guy, Ryan's already been left. There's 2 people in the med tent. There's 5 in cast camp who were fine when we left a few hours before. This woman is screaming. She had handmade clothes and everything. She's ripping her clothes up because she's so hot, screaming in pain. There's lions roaring. The rangers are looking nervous. And I'm thinking, what have I done? What is going on here? I told them they could eat this fruit. These guys didn't have any monitor lizard. They ate the fruit. Something's wrong with that fruit. So we have to go down. The rangers are nervous as hell. They've got their guns on their shoulders because these lions are hearing this roar, and they're hearing a woman roaring like that, screaming like that. Sounds like a warthog in distress to them, which is like dinner time. And so we go back the next day. We try to keep the one guy in. His eyes go pure yellow with jaundice. They all have gastritis. The doctors don't know what's wrong with it. They don't know what's wrong with the fruit. We can't figure out there's nothing in Wikipedia even on the fruit. They're saying something that the roots are toxic, but they weren't eating the roots, they were eating the fruit. And again, all our rangers are saying, no, we eat that fruit all the time. So, but we're still thinking the other 4 are going to be on death's door and we're going to lose our show. None of those other 4 got sick. We ended up having to tap the guy that got jaundice. So 4 people are out because of the fruit. 4 people are left. We have another 10 days of the show left. But we did everything right when we filmed it. We had the camera guys came back out again at night after they had gone home for the night and taking a shower. They come back out at 8:30 at night, and we're filming everything. The ambulance crew worked great. The rangers worked great. The PAs worked great. The local fixers worked great. Sean Foley and I are there. We're working really well together, and we get the people that need to get safe, and then the other 4 don't get sick, and they last the rest of the time. But then we bring it to edit, and we edited it in a beautifully constructive way, and your heart is bleeding for these people, but you're so sorry for who goes out so suddenly and how sick they are, but you're rooting so much for the 4 people to stay, and you're wondering, are they going to stay? Are they going to be safe from the street? Are they going to be safe from the lions that are circling their boma every night? And it's an hour-long show, and it's the best hour I've ever made. So.
Nice. One of the things that I remember working with you on that you would do is a thing called Dirty Beers.
Yes.
Can you tell me what Dirty Beers is?
Yeah. Oh, it's a fun story. You have to have production meetings and figure out what's going on when you're doing big group shows, and you're running it. You need to know what everybody's doing, because on our show we often start in 4 different camps. So I have a little crew in all 4 camps. But I need to know what's going on there, because that's how we're telling the story, and I need to hear from these producers who are often more on the junior side, telling me their thoughts on what the story is, and then often I'll have thoughts or follow-up questions, things that they need to capture in an interview the next day, or reminders like, okay, that's a great beat, but do we have the beginning of that? Let's figure out the beginning, middle, and end. So we need to know the stories that are developing. And in some shows you can't be there at all times watching. So we were in Colombia filming the big group show, and it was logistically tough to get there. You had to walk to this one place, take a bus to the dock, take a boat from the dock, walk about a half mile, then get in a truck, and then drive to your location, because we were on this little reserve island. So it was crazy amount of time to get there, and everybody would be in a separate area, so they'd all get home at different times. And we were trying to do these story meetings and give people the grace of coming. And it was 110 degrees every day in Colombia, and we're trying to give them the grace of coming home and showering and then having a meeting at our hotel and all that. And we realized if we do that, we're never going to have these meetings. People are going to be tired. They're either going to want to go out, or they're going to want to go to sleep, because our crew is always bifurcated that way. The people that want to go out, and the people that want to get 12 hours of sleep. And so we just said, screw it. Where the bus lands, there's a bar. Go there, unshowered, be dirty, and we'll have a beer, and we'll do our story meeting there. And we thought, well, what do we call this meeting? Dirty Beers. And now after 10 years, and even on shows that I'm not on, in the Naked and Afraid franchise, if you are having a story meeting after a big group show, you call it Dirty Beers.
Yep.
And so I'm kind of proud of that. That's
nice.
One, like I don't think that exists anywhere else in any other show, any other franchise, that nomenclature for a story meeting.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. We all have that moment where we're in the shower and you're just trying to remember a mistake and scream it out of your head.
Yeah.
What's your most memorable mistake that you've ever made on a set?
I was doing a documentary about TV censorship, and I interviewed Robert Smigel, who did, Triumph the Wonder Dog, and also did a lot of animation for Saturday Night Live, including the gay heroes. What are their names?
Ambiguously gay heroes.
Ambiguously gay. Yeah.
Yep.
So he did that. So he's a hysterical guy, brilliant, and I'm getting him to talk about censorship, and he's given me a lot of great details, and then I'm asking. I keep, as you do when you're asking in an interview, where you kind of set them up. Often our technique is throw a couple softballs, set them up, and then see if you can ask a question that he doesn't really even know he's answering, and then he's giving you the goods.
Yeah.
And he saw right through it, and so he was kind of well. The cartoon was about it was a cartoon he did that was all about consolidation of media empires, and Saturday Night Live censored it. They wouldn't put it on. So I'm asking him all these questions about it, and he's giving me the stuff that everybody knows. And then I'm trying to get him stuff to say who exactly censored it and giving me stuff that people don't know. And he's playing along, but then he sees through it, and he starts. Then he says, in a very funny, way, because this guy's a brilliant guy. He says, "Smigel would only moo at the interviewer's questions." So I then said, "So what about this?" And he goes, "Moo." I ask him more questions. Moo. And what I regret to this day is I was afraid to break that wall when we were in edit. And what I should have done is subtitle me asking, because I'm not on camera answering these questions, and then have a VO line saying, censorship in Hollywood is so, in Saturday Night Live or in Hollywood or whatever, is so bad that it makes even brilliant content creators come up with new ways to censor themselves, and then go into the mooing. There was a 90-minute documentary. It would have elevated the entire 90-minute documentary, and I chickened out and edit, and so I think about that all the time.
What was your favorite job ever?
Favorite job ever?
Yeah.
Was not when I was an executive producer or even a well-paid producer. I was a PA on a commercial shoot for Esso Gasoline in Britain. Esso Gasoline is their slogan is "Put a tiger in your tank." It used to be Exxon.
Yes. Yeah.
And so the show was the commercial was through Ridley Scott's company. They brought in like this incredibly expensive English director, but basically what it was a giant Bengal tiger and a 10-foot long white Siberian tiger running through the snow up in Lake Tahoe. We filmed it in December in this is ages ago, this is 30 years ago. And as a PA, I got paid under the table. I had my own snowmobile. And we were filming in Lake Tahoe in December, so the days were 8 hours long, and all we did was watch tigers run through the snow. And then we'd gamble at night because we were in South Lake Tahoe, and we had a call time at 9 because it wasn't even light enough to film these tigers running through the snow. And that's all they did. There was no spokesperson. There was tigers running through the snow. Yeah, fancy.
Did you do a lot of PA work?
I did. I did a lot of PA work in Kansas City and not as much in LA. I mean, people think that in Hollywood your career arc is linear and doesn't have dips. I did PA work for a friend of mine in 2010. I mean, I was in my 40s working as a PA.
Oh,
and I was happy to do that PA work,
Yeah. A couple of years back, a buddy of mine was like, "I need help on set. I just need a PA for the day." I was like, "I'll come in and do it."
Yeah.
But I was like, "Yeah, I'll do that." But again, I did it for about 6 hours, and about 6 hours into the day, I was like, "Yeah, this was a mistake."
Well, I was doing this PA job, and then I was guarding the door, making sure someone wasn't walking into the door. And it's like, at least put a pack of donuts next to me. I mean, my God, this is the most. I mean, it can be stultifyingly boring being a PA, and people that can be a PA and stick in this business are worth watching because they've got patience. That
I got to tell you, I've PA'd later in life to help out with people. But I never PA'd coming up. I lied to get my first job.
I'm sure you did.
I was an actor, and lady that was doing this mob film I was in, the Pig Pen, where I was burying mob hits in the Pig Pen. It's a horrible film. She calls me up. She goes, "Hey, I heard you were like looking to maybe get a full-time job." And I was like, "Yeah." She goes, "I got a coordinator job." I was like, "Oh, okay, let me come in." Walk in. I see this argument happening in this room. This guy storms out, and they go, "Movie's off." And I'm like, "What's going on?" They're like, "That was the producer. He just left." And I'm looking at Lori, and I'm like, "Just follow my lead." And she goes, "Well," I was like, "I need the money. Follow my lead." So I was like, "Hey, I usually produce, but I'm only doing this because Lori needed a hand with a coordinator. So whatever deal that guy had walking out, if you give it to me right now, I'll produce this film." And this is pre-internet, no cell phones, no internet. They were like, "Okay, hold on a second." They talked to Lori and blah, blah, blah. Lori's just going along with it. They're like, "Okay, you can do it." Like, went to Barnes & Noble, bought a book, What a Producer Does. Walked home. My girlfriend was like, "How was your first day?" I was like, "I got promoted." And from there, my next job was a movie with like Eric Stoltz where I line produced. And I just did that for my entire career. and I just lied to keep getting the jobs until until the internet caught up with me.
Wow.
And so, like, even though PAs are like, "Oh, you remember where you came from?" I'm like, "No, I just feel guilty as hell." So, like, later in life, when people are like, "Hey, you want to help out PA for?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." But again, I last about 6 hours where I'm like, "Oh, this sucks."
How do you fucking fold the C-stand?
Yeah, you're like, let me call somebody. Hold on, let me call
Let
somebody.
me internet that.
Dave, I want to thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.